right. Are we getting started now?
Yeah, I can see the numbers going down of everybody coming in. So hi, everybody. If you're just joining us, everyone's getting in and getting settled. It's crazy. You can see all the numbers as everybody gets let in. So looks like we're down to about like 15 more people. So welcome to Paint Night Live with Michaels and Plaid. Thank you for joining us. We are so excited to be a part of this community classroom. We've been doing these classes for probably about a month now. And we are excited to paint along with you tonight. We are painting Be Happy. Jesse's going to be your instructor. And if you have questions while we are painting along, we're going to be answering them in real time. So go ahead and put them in the chat. And I will try to answer them either by asking Jessie, I'll answer, she'll answer. I can private message if you have a question. So just let us know if you want to know anything. Also, if you are painting along, let us know how we're going, your pace. We want to make sure that everybody has enough time to paint along. Or if you're just watching to be inspired tonight and you're going to go back and watch this after, all the videos are going to be live on michaels.com after the fact. So you can watch our previous videos and you can go ahead and watch this one after. So again, if you don't have time tonight to paint, you want to go ahead and gather your supplies and take your time over the weekend or make some me time a little bit later, you can do that. Also, one more thing, we're going to be doing a giveaway during this. So when you comment in the chat and you stay throughout the video, you're going to be entered to win a giveaway of $50 worth of Plaid product. And we will select randomly and announce at the end of the video after Jesse's done teaching. So you'll want to stay tuned for that. I think that's all the housekeeping we need to get started on. We've been in the studio for the past couple, and tonight we're actually at home. So Jesse's at her house, I'm at my house. So we've got a lot of screens. So bear with us. So I know Michaels is going to spotlight, so you're going to be able to see Jesse painting. But if you go to your grid view, it's going to say Plaid Crafts, and you're going to be able to see me and Jesse. But most importantly, you're going to be able to see her hands painting. And then also there's going to be a view of the finished painting, because I know that's important, so you can kind of see what you're doing as you're going along. So, you want to make sure you set up your Zoom for that. And I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, I know people are just joining. I can see some people in there. Hi, everybody. Good to see everybody. Thank you for spending your evening with us. We love this. Hi, everybody. So again, we're going to go ahead and get started and let us know how you're doing. And if anybody has questions, if it's a color, if it's a brush, just let us know. We're here to enjoy and be inspired and paint along with Jessie and Be Happy. Also real quick, there is a pattern for this painting that was in the instruction in the supply list, but we've also gone ahead and put it into the chat. So if you aren't painting along live and you want to go ahead and grab that, it'll be in the chat and you can just print that, and Jessie's going to actually show you how to transfer it onto your canvas. So take a look at that. It's right there. There's a PDF from Debbie Cross to everyone. You can go ahead and download that now and save it for later and print it out and put it on your canvas. So I think that's everything. Jesse, you want to get started and we'll get going.
We'll start slow so everybody can, as people are coming in, they can keep up.
Absolutely.
So like Kiera said, I'm Jessie. I'm going to be teaching you guys how to paint Be Happy tonight, our cute little bumblebee. So the supplies we'll need is this 12 by 12 canvas, which we bought at Michaels. I've got, like Kiera said, there's a pattern for this painting too, just to make it a little easier for you guys to make sure you get the shape right. And you can print this out. It's like Kiera said, it's in the chat. So go ahead and print it out. And then all you need to do is just cut out, it's sort of tiled here. It's 4 pages. And so that way you can tile it perfectly and it'll fit perfectly on your canvas to be transferred. And I'll show you guys how to transfer it. But it's super simple. There's little instructions right here on how to do it. You just piece it together and transfer it right on. So that's free, and that's right in the chat there. And then we're also going to be using folk art paints tonight. So we've got Licorice, Daybreak, which is just black, so any black paint will be fine. Daybreak, which is our yellow color. We've got Lavender, which is our purple color, of course. And we've got light blue and wicker white. So we have the 5 colors we're going to do this painting with. And then I've also got our pack of Craft Smart brushes. So I'll let you guys know which ones we're going to be using. We've got the large flat brush. The one I have here is actually a 3/4 inch, but any like large to medium flat size brush is totally fine. I've got my number 10 round brush, which is just a medium to large round brush. Whatever you've got is totally fine. I've got my 10 flat, which is just sort of a smaller flat brush. And then I've got my number 6 round brush, which is just sort of a smaller round brush. It's not really a liner brush. It's just sort of a small round, if you can see it there. And then I've also got my water basin here, my paper towels for cleaning my brush, and then I'm using foam plates for my palette tonight. If you've got palette paper or paper plates or, you know, whatever you like to use at home, wax paper, that's totally fine. And then also I've got transfer paper here with me, and that's of course to transfer our template tonight. So I'll go ahead and let you know how to transfer that. So if you haven't used transfer paper before, it's just this like thin paper that's got, usually it's got like a graphite coating on it or something. So one side's kind of rough and then the other side is smooth, so it's just paper. And what you do is you put the graphite side down. It's like kind of chalky, you can feel it. You put that side down onto your canvas, and then once you've printed your template out, you just put your template right on top like this. So if this were my finished template, this is what it would look like. You don't need to flip it over or anything. It's just right side up, just how it looks to you. And then you use the end of your brush. So let's say this was my template. Here, I'll do it in the little corner to show you guys. So I got my transfer paper down, and here's my template. And all you're gonna do is you just use your brush and you press down and you follow the line. And what that does is it transfers that, it's kind of hard to see, it transfers that chalky graphite substance to your canvas. I can see it really well in person. It's not showing up on my camera. I went back and I redid my lines in pencil just to make sure you guys can see, but when you do it at home, you'll definitely be able to see the lines because it transfers really beautifully. So I'm gonna give you guys, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so some people did not have the printout or transfer paper. So
Okay.
the PDF is actually being posted right now, so you could save that down. And then what else could they do, Jessie, if they don't have the transfer paper?
So if you don't have the PDF or transfer paper and you're feeling risky, it's a pretty simple pattern. So it really, if you look at it, it's just a circle for the body, an oval for the bottom half, and then you just need to draw these skinny wings, and then the little head and the legs we're gonna paint in anyway. So those are easy. So you really don't even need to worry about those. What you need is that circle body, and then that oval bottom half, and then just these skinny wings. So if you're very artistic and you feel comfortable, please go ahead and just paint that by hand, or I'm sorry, draw that by hand. But if you do have the pattern and you don't have the transfer paper, what you can do is you can take any plain piece of paper, and you can either take a graphite pencil and color the back like that and cover the whole thing, or you can take a piece of chalk. If you've got colored chalk at home, like if you've got like sidewalk chalk or something, you just cover the whole back in graphite or chalk, and it works the exact same way. I do it all the time when I'm in a pinch. If I've just got chalk, I'm like, oh shoot, I need it. I did this sketch and I want to transfer it to my canvas and I don't have any transfer paper at home. I just use chalk and just regular printer paper. And so you'll use it that way. You can do it right on the back of your pattern, and then you can press it and it'll transfer that graphite onto your canvas.
So Jessie, some people need a minute because they're trying to get organized with the printing and the pattern. So
Totally.
yeah, next time we'll make sure everybody has their pattern. But do you have another canvas or something that you could maybe show people, give them some tips how to draw the bee?
Totally, yeah. I'm just gonna use the back of this paper. I don't have a canvas in front of me, but here, we'll just do it right
paper
here.
will work. But this, if you are gonna draw it, and again, you could go back and watch this after, but if you wanna go ahead and draw, Jessie will give you some pointers and some tips that'll make it less scary if you're just gonna go ahead and draw it. Because a lot of our paintings, you either draw with pencil or you just go ahead and draw with paint.
Okay, so I'd be happy to show you guys how to do it. So if you've got something round at home to trace, I know a lot of people are kind of intimidated by tracing circles. I usually just sort of do the best I can. So let's say this is the circle body, right? I go left and right and say that's my circle body. Or you can grab whatever you've got around you. You could grab, if you've got some painter's tape like this, you could use that and trace the inside for your circle. But you just need like a medium-sized circle body. Hopefully you can see that. And then the bottom, you can even overlap it. You just need a oval. So the bottom half of our bee is going to be an oval. Oops, I got a seam in my table there. So hopefully you guys can see that. And you can see mine is certainly not perfect, but we're gonna paint over it anyway. It's just to give us an idea of where the shape is. So can you see there, I've got my circle and my oval. It looks kind of like a snowman almost right now. And then the head is just a little bump at the top and then 2 little bumps next to it. Super simple. And then for the wings, they're a little bit on the tricky side. If you're not used to drawing, if you don't really consider yourself a drawer, it's okay though. We can definitely make it work. So it's going to start sort of in the center of our. We're going to make 2 lines here. Here, let's do it this way. It's going to be sort of in the. It's going to go into the body of our bee. So that's why we're going to start them there. So we want them to be, you know, pretty symmetrical, just how they would be on a bee. So that's where our wings will start, and then we'll find about where we want our wings to go out to. We'll say I'll end mine right at the edge of this page because I'm using a pretty narrow paper. My canvas is definitely bigger. So I'm going to connect these 2 lines. I'm just going to go kind of a swoop up and do the same thing here, but I'll be swooping down because it's opposite. So that'll be the top of my wings. And then for this one, we're going to kind of do, just picture how like a bug's wing would be. Here, you know what? I've got my own copy of my finished painting here that you guys can look at that might be helpful to you. This is what I'm looking at as I'm painting to make sure I get the details right for you guys.
Yeah, Jessie, I think this is helping and giving people some time, you drawing it.
Awesome. Okay, good. I'm glad. So now we're just going to draw that little wing. So just kind of picture what a bug's wing would look like. So I'm going to go up and then connect it there. And it really does need to be perfect. The key for this is going to be making your 2 wings look the same. Because of course on a bug, they would be completely mirrored. You know, they would be totally symmetrical. So if your wings are a little different than mine, if they're a little fatter or skinnier or longer or shorter, that's totally fine. Just try to make sure that the 2 wings that you have look the same as each other. So we're gonna do the same thing here. Let's say we're gonna connect it down here and sort of swoop up. We're just sort of imagining what a bee's wing would look like. So really, this is all you need for the bee's shape. I just saw somebody high five and that was really cute. I can see you guys this time. So this is sort of the bee's shape. So we've got our circle here and we've got our oval here and they're overlapping and we don't have to worry about that because we're gonna paint over it anyway. And then for his little head, we just did a little half circle there and then 2 little ones on either side for his little eyes. And then again, for the wings, we made these 2 lines so we knew where we were gonna start our wings. And then we made lines at the edge. On my paper, it's at the edge anyway. On your canvas, it might not go all the way to the edge. And we did swooping lines to connect those. And that's it. Again, your wings don't need to be perfect. They're kind of like long butterfly wings. If you've ever drawn or painted a butterfly, it's kind of like that, but they're just super long and thin as opposed to, you know, big and full. So again, then on this side, we just did the same thing. We connected it. And I hope you can see mine is not perfect. You know, my lines are definitely not perfect. They're a little rough, but all that really matters is that my 2 wings look pretty much the same. They look pretty much the same. So I hope that helps you guys.
Yeah, this is really helpful. Do you guys want to see the drawing one more time or should we talk about the transfer one more time? Yeah. I know just a lot of people are painting along, so I want it to be successful for everybody.
Okay. So here, we'll just draw it one more time.
Yeah, one more time.
Okay. All right.
Draw again.
That's okay. People are still joining. I don't want anybody to get behind right off the bat. So go ahead. Yeah,
this should be relaxing, and I want people to get a good painting out of this. So somebody said it's a drawing and a painting class all in one. That's a good.
It's not usually, but it's turning into it tonight.
Glass half full, guys.
Luckily, I like to draw and paint, so it's fine. All right, so sort of in the middle of our page, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna draw like sort of a medium-sized circle. I can show you on my canvas how big it is in relation to my 12 by 12 inch canvas. It's a little bigger. So you see that that's the circle that I'm drawing now. It's just a plain old circle. And then we want to draw an oval, which is sort of like the bottom of the bee, and they're overlapping. So it's going to be about the same width, but of course it's going to be longer because it's an oval. So we're going to overlap, that bottom half.
And some people are asking to show the transfer. So once you're done drawing this bee, we'll talk about the transfer again for everybody.
Absolutely. Totally. Okay, so that's sort of the body of our bee. So all we've got is a circle and an oval. And then for the head, it's just a little half circle on top. And it's kind of however big you want your bee's head to be. Mine's kind of tiny. And then 2 little bumps on either side, which I think are kind of the eyes of the bee. Just 2 little half circles, nothing fancy. And then for the wings, this is probably the trickiest part. We're going to start in the center of the body part, and we're going to make 2 lines there, just so we have an idea of where our wings are going to be growing out from. And then we're going to decide how long we want our wings to be on either side. So we'll make these kind of long. So make a little mark there so I can see. And then try to make them even. I'll make a little mark there. And so we're going to make a swooping motion up to meet that line. And then the same for this side. See that there? And then for the bottom, again, we kind of just have to make a little swooping motion to make it look like a bug's wing. And I sort of compared it to a butterfly wing. It's kind of got like a bottom half and a top half a little bit. So that's kind of what it's going to look like here. And again, your wings don't have to look just like mine. They definitely don't. But just do try to make them look like each other, because that's going to help your painting look more realistic. Because, of course, a bee's wings would probably match each other. So, yeah. So we'll go ahead and we'll show you guys, for those of you who do have the pattern at home, I'll let you guys know how to transfer it.
Yeah.
So I started drawing.
Yep. So go ahead and grab your transfer. People are asking about that. I think this was good. It gave people a minute to go ahead and get caught up. And people are also asking if it will be available after, and it will. So this class and our other classes are available on michaels.com after. So again, if you're just watching or you get behind, you could absolutely go back and watch this at your own pace, which is so great about these offerings that, again, if you're like, oh, I need to go back and see that, or I want to do it again, or I don't have time right now, I'm just going to relax a little bit and then go ahead and paint later, that's a perfect opportunity. All the classes are on michaels.com.
Yeah, I know I like to paint at my own pace. So whenever I follow along the tutorials online, I usually watch first and get inspired and try to take it in. And then I watch it after so that I can pause it, just like Kira said.
Yeah, yeah. And you don't want any anxiety or anybody stressed. This is supposed to be relaxing. Someone did have a question. They just want to see the antennas and the legs. Do you like how I did that for antennas?
Sure, yeah.
And the legs. And they want to see the whole bee again.
So there's our final painting. This is just a printout that I printed out straight from the link, straight from where you booked for the class. I just printed out the bee. And so that's what our little legs look like. And we can paint those in as we go. So if you're feeling unsure about how to make those little shapes, all you need to do right now is I would just encourage you to just make the line where it would be. So like for the ones I just drew, like just make the line and we can paint it in the details of them. You don't have to worry about that right now. Just make the placement for now so we know where they're going to be on your bug, and we can paint those in with our brush. So don't stress about the little details and textures that are on here, because we're going to paint those in anyway.
Yeah, that's what's so great about the drawing. You're just it's kind of a placeholder, but you're gonna really show people and get into the details how to make it look like a bug. So exactly. A stick leg is totally fine. We got stick bees right now. It's okay.
Yeah, don't worry about the antenna. These little ones aren't even on the pattern. The little antenna, we're gonna just paint in. Those aren't even on the pattern, so don't worry about it. We do have the legs on the pattern, but they can be easily painted. I was probably making it too easy for you guys, so this is better. It's more of a challenge. Okay.
Oh, T. Whitney is cracking me up. She's just shaking her head no. Look at her dancing.
T. Whitney, that's who I saw high five. They did a big high five and threw their bees. I love that.
That's awesome. You got this.
Yep, it's gonna be great. All right, so for those of you who do have the template, I got mine all mixed up here. So this is what you have printed out. It should be 4 pages, and you just want to cut out here. It kind of tells you on the template where the scissors are, so you just cut out those little squares. I just did it a few minutes ago to transfer mine. And then you just piece them together just like a puzzle, and it tells you it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So you know exactly how they go. And I just use like painter's tape or stencil tape just to hold them together. And then it'll match perfectly onto your canvas. Once you've done that, it should match. It'll be the exact size of your canvas. We tiled it that way so that it'll fit on a 12 by 12. So once you've done that, you're going to take your transfer paper And this is, again, this is transfer paper. It's got sort of a chalky coating on the back of it. It's also can be called graphite paper, depends on the kind that you're using. And you want the transfer paper to go face down. See, mine even says, this is Plaid's transfer paper. It says this side up, which is really helpful. So there's no confusion about which way to do it, because a lot of times it's hard to tell. And so when you take your pattern, of course, mine, I'm not going to put mine in the right place, just so you guys know. I'm just going to show you how to do it. You put your pattern down on top, just like this. So you can even tape your transfer paper down and then tape your pattern on top if that's easier for you to make sure it doesn't move. And you're going to take the end of a paintbrush and you're just going to trace over that line. And you want to put a good medium pressure. You can see I'm just tracing over the line of my pattern. I'm just following that line, just tracing. And that is going to transfer the shape right on there. Again, it's hard for you guys to see on the camera, but I can see it perfectly in real life. So that we just it just transferred that line right onto there. I wish you could see it better, but I did go back and I traced my lines again with pencil because I knew you guys wouldn't be able to see it at home, but you should be able to see it on your own canvas once you do that.
And if you don't have transfer paper, you can also do the old school method of taking the pencil.
You can just make your own homemade graphite paper. So you just take a piece of printer paper like I have here. You can even take the back of your template. You can totally do that. Once you have it all tiled together, flip it over, cover the whole back in like a colored chalk if you've got sidewalk chalk, or take a graphite pencil and just make sure the whole thing is covered in graphite pencil. And that's really all graphite paper is. So you're kind of saving yourself some money there. And then so here's my graphite. You would just do the same thing and you would transfer your line that way and that will transfer the graphite. Again, I wish you guys could see it better, but I can see the line just as well as I could see with the transfer paper. So it's kind of like a free transfer paper at home.
Yeah. And your lines look great. I think everybody can see those. And again, whether you're drawing or you're transferring, it is just an outline. Jesse's going to teach you how to get in there and paint all those details. So don't worry.
Yeah. Do not stress. But we do want to have these stripes in our B. So that's something that I failed to mention when I was showing you how to draw it. So let's do that real quick. I don't want you guys to get messed up when we go to start painting the B. And I'm like, fill in this stripe. And you're like, we don't have a stripe. So we have a stripe here. And it's sort of a curved stripe right above our wings that separates those. And then on the bottom half, it sort of follows the curve of the B. So we've got one stripe, and we have 3 stripes here. 2 stripe, 3 stripe, and that's it. You just want to make sure you have those because we're going to be painting those in. So there's one up here, and then 1, 2, 3. You can see I kind of curved it to match the curve of the B. I wouldn't want to do it like this because the B's not flat. The B's round. So when you're looking at it from perspective, the line would be curved. So make sure yours is nice and subtly curved. And this is all you need, just this quick drawing or the transfer. Either way, your B is going to be beautiful. Okay, let us know if you guys too. I feel like I'm afraid to start painting because I don't want people to be behind, but
no,
let us know if you're painting along.
Yeah, I think we're getting some, we're ready to paint.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's get started. We're going to start by painting the background anyway, so hopefully that'll give people a chance to catch up. If they are still transferring or still drawing, we're just going to start painting the background. It's just going to be a quick base coat. So let's
and
start.
Go slow. So go slow. There's some people. So some people are ready, some are not. So we'll just go slow. And I love all the bee jokes, like the punny bee jokes right now.
I love that.
Guys, they're so funny.
Okay, so we're going to start painting. We're going to, like Kira said, we're going to go nice and slow for those of you who are still trying to catch up. So first, I'm going to take some of my lavender, which is this pretty purple color, and I'm going to put about a 1/4 size amount of it onto my palette. And again, I'm just using a styrofoam plate for my palette tonight. You can use palette paper or aluminum foil, whatever you've got at home, whichever you prefer. And then I'm also going to put some Wicker White onto my palette.
And don't forget, everybody, if you are behind or you just want to watch now and go back and paint later, this class will be available on michaels.com. So that's a great thing that it's just you have access to it after the class. So.
And we've done a few of these so far, so you can go back and watch any of those. If it's the first time that you've come across this class, across our Let's Paint Lives, We've already got, I think, 2 or 3 on there. So
Yeah.
feel free to go back. Those are posted on michaels.com.
Yep.
So I'm going to go ahead. I've got Lavender and Wicker White on my plate. I'm going to grab my my medium size or kind of a larger size for painting flat brush. Mine is 3/4 inch flat. A 1 inch flat is fine. Whichever size you've got that looks like it's comparable to this one. And whenever I have a new paintbrush, it always comes with sizing in the bristles, and that keeps the bristles from getting crushed in the packaging, so it's nice and pristine when it gets to you. So whenever you have a new paintbrush, you want to make sure you rinse that out so your paintbrush is nice and soft. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to rinse my brush and get that sizing out. And then I don't want my brush to be too wet, so I'm going to make sure I press it into my paper towel and I dry off. And then we are just going to be mixing 1 part purple and 1 part white to make a nice pale purple color. So I'm going to scoop up 1 part purple, and we're just going to eyeball it, and then about the same amount of white, and we're going to mix those on our palette. And you can see when I'm mixing, I do sort of a back and forth motion. Just make sure they're nice and mixed. And oftentimes when I'm painting, if I'm sort of trying to lighten something using white, I do a 1-to-1 ratio, and then I decide if I want it lighter or darker, I just add more of whichever color I need. So I want mine to be much lighter than this, so I'm going to add some more white. And again, we're using Lavender and Wicker White. We've got our 3/4 inch flat brush. Any large flat brush will do. And I'm going to put a good bit of white because I want it pretty light. Can you guys see the color? I want like a really pale, pale purple. So I think that's looking pretty good.
And about how much paint are you mixing? Because I know sometimes it's hard to go back and mix that exact color again, so.
Yeah. So I've got about a scoopful. I know that's kind of hard to determine. I've got about a scoopful of purple, and then I had about a quarter-sized pile of white. I know it's kind of tricky, but as long as it looks, you know, pretty similar to this. And probably after I'm done painting this, I probably am going to have to go back and mix some more, but that doesn't bother me. I think it bothers a lot of people who like their paintings to be perfect. If one side of my painting is a little darker than the other, that doesn't bother me one bit because it'll be close, it'll hardly be noticeable, and I think it just adds to the character and the detail of the painting. So if you want to have everything completely exact same color, I would mix a lot of paint right now, but I probably will go back and mix more, and I'll just try to get it as close as I can. So what we're going to do now is we are just going to paint around the bee. We're just going to paint the background. So here, I'll start here at the top. And we're just going to do a nice, light, even coat of this light purple color that we've mixed. It's kind of got a shine on mine here. But just nice and smooth. We don't want a ton of paint on our canvas. We just want a nice, even coat, just enough to cover the canvas.
Jesse, could you show the finished painting? I know we have it up as Plaid Crafts, but I think it's getting lost while everyone's scrolling. So if you could hold that up for everybody.
So this is the finished painting. This is Be Happy. And now we're just painting the light purple background. So maybe I can scooch over and have it in view a little bit for you guys.
And thanks everybody for painting along. We are, we've been in the studio the past couple weeks, but we are back at home right now. So we are improvising. So we're glad everybody is joining along and painting with us from your home. So we're rolling with it tonight, you guys.
I'm joining you guys from my basement studio right now. Normally I'm in the Plaid film studio, so it is a little different.
I'm at my house in my living room. I kicked my family outside right now.
Okay, so like I said, we are just painting a mixture of lavender and wicker white, and we're just filling in the background of our canvas. You can see I have a really even, smooth coat. You don't need a ton of paint, just enough so that you're getting full coverage, which is really easy to do with the folk art acrylic paints because they're really rich and creamy. And so when you're doing paintings like this, it's just one coat, full coverage on a canvas like this, which is why they're my go-to. I love painting with them. You never have to go back and do, or I should say very rarely have to go back and do a second coat, which I like, because when you're painting something like this, you don't want to have to go back and cover something up multiple times. You just kind of want to paint it and make it beautiful and be done with it. So oh, go ahead.
Somebody has a question real quick. Sorry to interrupt. But they want to know if they drew stick legs, which again, everything goes, and that is totally acceptable to have a stick bee tonight. I know you're going to paint around. Do you just kind of like get up close to the lines, or people are worried about painting over their drawing, I guess?
Here, I'll show you guys how I would treat that. I was thinking about that when you guys were when I was telling you to paint stick legs.
Yep,
So
that's a great question.
Say this is one of my stick legs that I just filled in. We're gonna paint up to it like this. We're gonna use the edge of our brush and go pretty close. And remember, the stick leg is gonna be wider. So if there's some white next to it, that's okay. We don't mind that because we're gonna paint it wider on top anyway. And then the same thing on the other side. I'm just gonna go as close as I can, but I'm gonna leave that little pencil line. Can you see that there? So we went right up to the pencil line. We didn't go over it.
Yep, I think that's really helpful. Okay, again, it's just guides, so.
Yeah, it's just a guide. And you can always, you know what, by the time we go to the legs, the background might even be dry, so we can draw them back in if we needed to. So you can see I'm just painting around the wings here, and I'm using sort of the edge of my brush to get really close to the wing shape. I'm sort of getting in the corners there, I'm using the edge of my flat brush sort of to my advantage. I'm kind of letting the brush do the work. I'm just putting the edge of the brush right up to that shape. And we're just filling it in really lightly. Again, just really smooth coat. We don't want to glob a ton of paint on there.
And people want to know about the side of the canvas.
Yeah, feel free to paint the sides of your canvas. Usually when I'm painting in the Plaid Studio, I said this to John last week when he was kind of helping me moderate the questions. I never paint the sides of the canvas when I'm painting the studio because I'm scared of getting the table dirty. So if you got paper at home, it just gets messy when you're trying to paint it when your painting is still wet. So I usually wait till the end and I paint the sides when my painting is dry, but you can totally start painting them now. If you want to go ahead and paint the purple in, I'm kind of close to the camera there. You can start doing that. Just make sure your table is protected, because when you start getting paint on the sides, you're most likely getting it on the back of the canvas too.
Yeah.
See that there? And so that's going to get on your table. But feel free to paint the sides as you go. I don't care about my table tonight because I've got paper down.
Yeah, you could even paint them a contrast color after the fact, or.
Totally, you could paint them like gold or something. That'd be really pretty.
Treasure gold would be pretty.
Yeah, super pretty. So again, we're just getting right up to the edges of our bug, of our little bee here. And you can see I'm kind of I'm skipping around the details because I'm going to go back in and do those with a smaller brush. I'm not going to try to get this big brush in there. So I'm just kind of going around the bolder edges with my big flat brush. We're just painting in, and again, this is a mixture of lavender and wicker white. So we got a nice, it's a little bit of lavender and then mostly a wicker white. And it gives
Kelly painted her table too while she was at it. I love that.
See, I told you it can get messy. I warned you in advance. But your table's a really pretty color, at least. It's this beautiful purple.
Yeah, and people asked if they're not able to get the exact color, if you can substitute. Absolutely.
Totally. Any purple will work for this. Any white will work for this. Just any acrylic paints you've got at home. I know that it's really tough for people, right? A lot of people right now to get supplies, to get out to the stores. So whatever paints you've got at home in your little studio, in your hobby box, just use that. That's totally fine. Any purple, any white, just mix them together. Or if you've already got a tube of light purple, just go ahead and use that. That's totally fine. You can substitute. Any yellow will work, any black will work. You can substitute any of these paints.
Yeah, and you know, if you're just watching now and you don't have your supplies, you can go ahead and order on michaels.com and have it. I know a lot of them are doing curbside or same day delivery. So you can go ahead and paint along after once you get your supplies, or like Jessie said, go ahead and substitute.
Yeah, we did curbside today actually to get my canvas because we're working from home and I ran out. So we did Michael's curbside today and it was super easy to get the supplies that we didn't have for tonight.
Yeah, so I think everybody is starting to get caught up, I hope, and it's becoming more relaxful. Again, this is something, you know, right now that is so great that Michaels is offering these free classes, and we're so thrilled and happy to be a part of it. So, and thank you guys for taking time out of your night and painting with us or just getting inspired.
Yeah, we have so much fun doing these, so we hope you guys are having fun too.
Yeah, it's so great to see everybody too painting along.
Yeah, I'm excited. Normally, when I'm in the studio doing this, I've just got a camera in front of me I can't see, but now I've got my computer here, so I'm able to see you guys painting along, so that's really exciting for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I've got all the big areas. You can see that I wasn't like crazy careful or anything. I tried to get right up to the line, but it's not perfect for sure. But I didn't get too close to these legs, so I'm gonna go back in with a smaller brush so that I can get into those details. But first, I am gonna mix some more of my purple color because, like I said, I had a feeling I was going to have to because I didn't think I'd mixed enough, but we're gonna go ahead and do that real quick. So I'm just gonna use a little bit of my lavender and mostly white.
Everybody said be kind. I love that.
I agree. You should always be kind.
Yeah.
It's very easy to do.
Shane said that these are inspiring them to paint.
Yay. Okay, cool.
I want to read everybody's comments, or you guys will just hear me talking the whole time.
They're like, we know, we're reading them too. Okay, so I mix a little more here with my brush, you can see. And then I'm going to clean this brush off because I'm going to switch to a smaller brush, like I said, to get into those details. Oops, I'm moving my water basin all over the place. You can see I had way too much paint here on my brush. That's a no-no. I should have wiped off some of that paint before I kept painting. That's okay. Do as I say, not as I do. Okay, so I'm going to switch to my smaller flat brush that I have here. And I just have this number 10 flat. So any kind of tiny flat brush you have, or even a small round brush will probably work for this too. Just some sort of smaller brush. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to fill in around, oops, I got my sleeve in it. Fill in around these legs. We're still using the same purple. We're just making sure we've got all of our background covered. And again, this is a mixture of lavender and wicker white. Any light purple will do. Any purple mixture will do. If you want your background to be a little darker or a little lighter or even a different color, that's totally fine. You can make a blue background or a pink background. It's totally up to you. I just thought purple would really look nice with the yellow on the bee, so that's why we did purple tonight. Again, I'm just using the edge of my brush to get into these smaller details around these little guys. But again, if you have just the lines at home, if you drew your bee by hand, that's fine too. Just go straight up to the line. We're just getting in these details.
You guys, these comments are so funny. Can you believe this is my mom's first time painting? We've got some little, there's 7 and 8-year-old freehanding this and enjoying it.
Awesome, I love
metallic
that.
Pink.
I love that. That's when I started drawing too, when I was 7 or 8. So.
Yep. So what if you? Yep. Sorry. What if you accidentally paint over the line?
That's okay. You can just, what I do is I always keep either like the picture of the finished one. Of course, if I'm painting for the first time, I don't have that. But I'll keep the template near me, or I'll keep the printout near me so I can just see where the lines are. So if I painted over the line a little bit, if I've gone like that, that's okay. I know where that line is. I can remember where it is. Or I can look at my template next to me when I'm painting and I can fill it back in. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
Don't stress about that.
Yeah, having that painting right up there in the corner, Jesse, I think is really helpful for everybody. We got a good view of everything.
Awesome.
We can see your palette. We can see you painting.
Awesome. That's what I like to hear. I'm glad you guys can see. If only you could see what it really looked like here with my overhead rig. I'm kind of glad you can't see what's happening up here. So I'm glad that it all worked and that you guys are able to see everything well. I've got like a 2x4 over my head. It's great.
You do what you gotta do, right?
Exactly. Exactly. You use what you got.
Yeah.
So again, we're just using a small flat brush to get into the details around the legs and around the body of our bee. making sure that all the canvas in the background of the bee is covered.
So, and if you guys are just, you know, painting along with us for the first time, or you want to learn more, we have a whole, this is part of our Let's Paint series. We have a Facebook group, actually, a Let's Paint Facebook group that you want to, you know, check out on Facebook, because we've got a ton of paintings like this also. So this is part of our bigger series that we've been able to share with Michaels.
Yeah. If you feel like your brush is dragging a little bit on your canvas, like my basement is really dry right now, so my paint is drying pretty quickly on my palette, you can just dip your brush in a little bit of water. You don't want to put too much water in your paint, but just enough to help it sort of glide again, just to help make your paint wet again. You don't want to water it down or anything, but just enough so it's not sort of sticking and dragging. Okay.
Oh, good. So yeah, people are starting to get caught up. So I think this painting the background gave people a minute. So that's great.
Awesome. I'm so glad, guys. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, we want this to be fun for everybody.
Yes, we never want painting to be stressful. It never should be.
It's just paint. You can paint over it if you mess up.
I can't tell you how I have a canvas right over here where I painted something weird and I didn't like it, and I just painted white over it, and I'm going to paint something new on it tomorrow.
Yep, I love it.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush off. And the next thing we are going to do, I'm actually going to get a fresh plate, but I'm going to keep this one nearby because I don't want to waste it. And I still have paint on here, so I'm going to hang on to it sort of off the camera, but I'm going to get a fresh plate just so you can see my mixing better. But I probably will go back and reuse that paint. So I'm going to put a little bit of black. So what I've got here is Licorice, but you can use folk art. Oh, it's not open. Pure black, or you can use any black acrylic paint you have is fine. Again, my favorite is folk art, but if you can't get that right now, that's okay. You can use whatever you got. I'm gonna do a big mess opening this. And again, I'm using Licorice here, which is just a really nice black color. I'm going to put about a nickel-sized amount of that on my palette. And then I'm going to put some Wicker White, about a nickel size of that as well. I don't have any baby wipes, Kira.
No, it's like my favorite thing, my favorite supply.
We always keep baby wipes around when we're crafting, so when we do weird things like open paint and get paint all over your hands, you can just wipe it off, so that's okay. It's super washable in your hands, so. Okay, so I've got black and white on my palette, on my paper, or my plate here. And I'm going to grab my, my smaller flat brush, and we are going to grab some black, a good bit, and we're gonna grab just a touch of white, just a tiny bit of white, just so you can see how much I have on there, hardly any. And we're gonna mix those. Because what? I'm gonna grab a little more white actually. What we're gonna use this for is the body of our bee. Like right here, it looks like it's black, but you can see we've got a black shadow there. So that tells us that it's not black. It's sort of like a very deep, dark charcoal color. So that's what we're making right now. We want to not make this totally black because we want to save that for the shadow on that part. So make it a little bit lighter even still. So if we were to make it totally black, we really couldn't put any shadow on it because it would already be the darkest it can possibly be. So that's why we're lightening it just a teeny bit. So you can kind of hardly tell that it's not black, but it'll still give us the chance to put some details on it. So whenever I didn't say this before when I was doing the purple, whenever I mix with my brush, I like to wipe off the excess paint before I start painting. Because when you mix it, you get your brush really saturated in paint, and you never want that much paint on your brush when you're painting because you just don't have as good of control over the paint and the brush and where you're placing the paint on your canvas. I always like to start with sort of a fresh brush, and then I can control how much paint is actually going onto my brush. So that's why I'm gonna go ahead and wash it off a little bit. And then I'm gonna pick up this sort of dark charcoal color I just painted, and I'm going to paint the bottom section of this body. So remember we drew the big circle, and then we put a stripe up there. I'm gonna leave the stripe right now, and I'm just gonna paint this part here. So again, we're just gonna fill this in, just how we filled in the background with the purple. And again, we just mixed black paint with a little bit of white just to lighten it up slightly. So it's not really a pure black. It's sort of like a very, very dark charcoal color. And that's what we're going to use for this body of the bee. I'm going to use the edges of my brush pretty carefully to get around these details. Just sort of, you can see I'm sort of using the tip of my brush to get into the details there. And again, if you don't get it perfect, we can just dry it and paint over it. But I'm going to try to be a little bit careful this first go around. Again, this is just our black color with a little touch of white to lighten it ever so slightly. We're going to paint that right there. And then also with this color, we're going to paint our bee's head. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paint that in. And again, you can see I'm using sort of the edge of my brush. If you have an even smaller flat brush at home and you feel like that would be better for you, feel free to use that. I'm just sort of using the tip of my brush to get into the little detail there. Yep. Don't worry about it being perfect.
Yep. And I think just let people go ahead and fill their black in. I think we want to make sure those lines are perfect.
Yeah. And then the other part of the bee that's going to be this color is just this part right below the black body that we painted. This first stripe here is also going to be this color.
So you've gone ahead and done the head, the round, like the middle body part. I don't know insect terminology.
Yeah. The middle body, right. And then the top stripe of the bottom half.
Okay.
So yeah, we did we had our stripe there. We did the bottom half of that, we're below the stripe. And we did the very top stripe of our bottom of the bee. And then we painted the head. We just did all of that with a really small flat brush. So just take your time filling those in. And again, that wasn't pure black. That was black mixed with a tiny bit of white. We're saving that very dark black for some shadows on that.
Yeah, because I think it's wet too, so it looks very, very black on my screen.
Yeah, it's a little bit not so black. It does look really black. I can see it here. It does look super black. But there is a little bit of white.
I see everybody painting along. Just give everybody a minute to go ahead and.
Totally. I'm going to peek at everybody too.
Yeah, it's fun to see everybody. And don't forget, this class will be available along with our other classes on michaels.com after. Again, they'll put the pattern up there. You can watch this class and paint along if you don't have your supplies, or you want to go back and paint again, or paint along, you know, with your family, or do another Zoom with some friends and paint. So it's great that all these classes are available on michaels.com after.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and don't forget, if you've commented in the feed, we're going to be doing a drawing at the end of the class. We're going to pick someone live to win $50 worth of plaid product.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's one of my favorites that Jessie did. So we've had this one for a while. We've been waiting to do it. I love it.
Thank you. Okay, cool. So I feel like everybody's catching up a little bit with those dark gray colors, very, very dark gray. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab some black. We're going to do about 1 part black and 1 part white.
And what size brush are you using?
And I'm still just using the 10 flat.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry guys. If I forgot to tell you, it's because I didn't change brushes usually. But I'll try my best to remind you because I do forget to say it. I'm still using our number 10 flat, which is a small flat brush. I'm going to mix 1 part white and 1 part black, and that's going to give us sort of a medium gray color. And it's really great. Once you get more comfortable, I'm putting a little bit more white in, you can see. Once you get more comfortable mixing colors, you just have to buy way less paint. The more you start to understand how colors work together, and sort of what you get when you mix certain colors, you know, I could have bought several different gray paints for this, but all I had to buy was black and white because I'm just going to mix them together and get all the colors that I need.
I just want to say hi to Gail because she is 76 years old. She put her age out there and said she just started to paint. So.
Awesome, Gail. Congrats. I hope you're having fun. That's amazing.
I know. I want to say hi to everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Okay. So what we just did there was we mixed about 1 part black and 1 part white. And then I did go back and I added a little bit more white because I want it to be a little bit lighter. And again, whenever I mix paint with a brush, I always wash it off before I start painting it again. Because you can see how much paint is in there. It's just totally saturated in paint. It's like a mop, and we don't want that much paint on our brush. We want to rinse it out so we can control how much paint is actually on our brush. I'm going to rinse it out. If you have a lot of painting supplies at home and you have like a palette knife or something, that's sort of one of the good things about palette knives is that you don't have to get all that paint in your brush. So palette knives are great for mixing colors. You've got that. If you're planning on doing a lot of painting, you might want to invest in one. They got some really good ones on michaels.com. Okay, so again, I'm rinsing my brush. And we are going to paint this middle stripe here on the big bottom part of our bee with this medium gray color. So I'm just going to fill that in. Again, I'm just using the edges of my brush to get into those details. But it doesn't have to be perfect. When you're painting, if you accidentally get onto the purple that's already painted, don't worry about it. Just let it dry, or you can even hit it with a hairdryer and then paint right over it with the purple color again. That's why I saved it. I put it to the side so I have it. In case we need to do any little touch-ups. You can see I'm just painting it in as carefully as I can.
And somebody had a question about what paints we're using. So we're using Folk Art acrylic paints.
Yep.
All available on michaels.com and in the store.
Yeah. These are my favorite paints. We have a lot of paints at Plaid, but these are my absolute favorite to paint with because they're so rich and creamy and they just cover a canvas so well and they mix so beautifully. They're so heavily pigmented. So that you don't get muddy colors when you're mixing. I just love them so much.
Yeah, and you can start to see that gray, Jesse, now that the black is drying. You can see the difference between the dark.
Good. I'm glad. Beautiful. Look at all the bee emojis.
I know. Love it.
Awesome. Okay, so I rinsed my brush off. And we are going to use these same 2 gray colors that we've mixed to paint the legs. So a lot of you are wondering about that. If you drew the legs in by hand at home, you're kind of curious how we're going to do that. So here, we'll show you how. So I'm going to grab the smaller of my 2 round brushes. So this one is my number 6 round. So any round brush that looks to be about this size you've got is totally fine. You might have like a liner brush at home that will work well for this. So just make sure it's sort of a smaller sized round brush. And this is brand new, so I'm going to rinse the sizing out again. I just bought this today at Michael's.
Someone's paint is looking really streaky.
Okay, it probably means you haven't mixed it quite enough. So make sure when you got it on your palette that you've mixed it really well. You don't want to see any of the original colors in it. So if you're mixing black and white, you don't want to see any black or white. You want it to be all gray. So just make sure that you mix it really well before you start painting with it. Hopefully that'll fix that problem. All right, so again, I've got my, my small round brush here. And we are going to use this to paint the legs. So here, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pick up this lighter gray that we just mixed. You can see I'm just putting a little bit on the tip of my brush. I'm not sure you guys can see that. Can you see that there? how much I have on there. I know, it's tough. It's only about halfway up the bristles of my brush. So I don't want a lot of paint on here, because if you glob too much paint on there, you're never going to get a nice fine line. The less paint, the better, the more control you have. So if you have the template and you transferred it, all you need to do is just go ahead and just fill in the shape of the legs that you transferred. Okay? So if you don't have the template and you just drew stick lines, that's okay. I'll show you what to do. I'll show you on a piece of paper how you're going to paint your legs. So it's really just a little triangle there. You can see that. And then it comes down into a smaller point at the bottom. So that's what we're going to do for those of you who just did the stick legs at home.
Yep. And what color is this? This is the black and the white, correct?
Yes, this is the lighter of the grays that we just mixed. So it's pretty much 1 part black and 1 part white, about. So say this is the leg that I just drew, right? This is my stick leg. And of course it'd be purple beneath it, but that's okay. I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to put a good amount of pressure. I'm not going to start at the bottom. I'm going to start a little bit ways up. You see that? I'm leaving a little bit of a foot. And I'm going to put a good amount of pressure so that my, oops, I need more paint. So that my bristles spread out and I get a wide line like that. Do you see that? And then for the bottom part, I'm just going to put a little bit of pressure for the foot. Can you guys see how we did that? So a little bit of pressure for the foot and then a lot of pressure for the rest of the leg. And that pretty much gives us the same shape that we transferred. Do you see how those are so similar? So that's how you're going to paint it if you did, that's when you paint the bottom of the bottom legs, if you did it just with your pencil. You just transferred it, you just drew a little stick line, as we've been saying. So do the same thing for the other side. You'll just do a lot of pressure, and my brush is drying out because I'm doing it on paper. So a lot of pressure, and then on the bottom, just a little bit of pressure. It'll be the same on both sides. Super simple. So that's how you'll do those legs. And again, for those of you who did have the template and were able to print it out and were able to transfer it, you're just going to fill it in. You're just going to use the tip of your brush to carefully fill in that shape. Now, I'm sorry that a lot of you didn't have the template. If we do another template, we'll make sure that it's really clear on the event listing so we don't have any more confusion next time. Just filling these in. So those are my bottom legs. That's all we've got there. Okay. And then for the middle sort of arms we've got, the middle legs you've got, they're a little bit different of a shape. So again, if you just printed the template, you're just going to fill it in almost like a coloring book. You just want to fill in that shape just the way that you transferred it. And they're just sort of like a little irregular leg shapes because they wouldn't be straight, of course, or like a little bumpy and wiggly in places. And I'll show you in just a second, for those of you who did the stick line, let me straighten my canvas out, how you are going to paint those. Okay, so that's what you're going to do if you have it. If you don't have it, here, I'll switch to my line drawing that I actually did. This will be more clear for you guys, hopefully.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful for everyone to see and to be able to get cut up.
Good. Okay, good. So I'm just going to do a quick repeat. For those of you who drew it yourselves, we did a little, like very light pressure for the foot, and it's about maybe ½ an inch. And then we did heavy pressure for the rest of the leg. And again, since I'm painting on paper, my brush is drying out really fast. It won't be that bad for your canvas. And then on the same thing on this side, heavy pressure for the top part. And then as it got to the bottom, we did very light pressure. So that's what those will look like. And then for these middle legs that are coming out here, we're gonna do the same thing where we're sort of playing with pressure. And we're gonna push down, pull up, push down, pull up, push down. So if you're confused about that, I'm talking about the pressure we're putting on our brush. So here I'll show you. We're gonna push down and then pull up, push down, pull up, push down. See how I got a wavy line by doing that? And that's all about different, it's the same exact brush, it's about putting different pressures on your brush. So the same thing here. push down, pull up, push down, pull up, push down. And again, my brush is drying out because I'm painting on paper, but you get the idea.
And what size brush are you using, Jessie?
And we are using our number 6 round brush, which is the smaller of our round brushes. If you're using that Taklon variety set, I'm pretty sure it's the smallest round brush. So super simple. Again, they don't have to be perfect. Nothing's perfect in nature, so everything is unique and natural. But that's about the way that we're going to paint it.
Nothing is perfect in Zoom world or painting world or nature.
Especially these days, nothing's perfect.
And I think those are, yeah, I think those are great techniques. You know, like you said, if you don't have it, the pattern done, or you drew it.
Right, like some people don't have a printer at home. So I understand. My sister actually always follows along with all of our paint nights, and whenever there's a template, she makes me print it out at my house and drive it to her house before the event actually happens so she can paint along too. She's like, is there a template? You got to get it for me. I'm like, will do.
We're always just out of ink no matter what.
I think that's just a human thing, is just always being out of ink. Okay. So for the top ones, these top little legs again, we're using the same brush, which is our number 6 brush, and we're using the same of the lighter grays that we've been using. And again, if you have the template, we're just going to fill in that little shape. Super simple, just like a little coloring book. You're just going to paint it in the lines.
Oh, Jessie, can you slide the finished painting into view again?
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
There you go. Yeah, I think that's helpful for everybody. There we go.
Cool.
Good, thank you.
Sure. And then do the other one. And again, we're just painting it in. Just blocking that color in. So that's how you're going to do it if you have the template. Again, if you don't have the template and you drew yours by hand, I'll show you how we're going to do it.
Yeah, this is very helpful. We're getting a lot of people asking to do it again, so thank you.
Oh, good. Good. I'm glad. Okay, so we're going to start at the bottom and we're going to do heavy pressure, light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure. So remember, heavy, light, heavy, light. So here, I'll show you. Heavy, light, heavy, light. And that's how it should look. We can even make it a little pointy at the end. So the same thing on the side. I like to turn, whenever I'm pulling my paintbrush, I'm right-handed, so it's always easier for me to pull from left to right. So right here, it'd be a really awkward angle for me to try to pull from left to right. So feel free to turn your canvas at home to the way it's comfortable for you. So this way I can continue pulling from left to right because I'm right-handed. Again, if you're left-handed, it's probably you're gonna have to turn your canvas this way to do it. So just however feels comfortable for you. Don't worry about moving your canvas around. When I'm painting, I have my canvas all in all kinds of wonky directions. So again, we're gonna do heavy, light, heavy, light. So heavy pressure, light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure. And that's what those lines are gonna look like. You can see they sort of look like just like bug line or bug legs, like wonky bug legs. I don't know. When I looked at a lot of pictures of bees when I was painting this, and this is pretty much what it always looked like. Okay, so I'm gonna rinse my brush off. And now we are going to paint the yellow areas. So I've got a good bit of room on my plate, so I'm going to keep this plate. And what the yellow that I'm using here is called Daybreak, which is kind of a nice pale yellow color. So whichever yellow you've got at home, if you've got a nice pale one, that's fine. If you've got like a really bright yellow or really medium yellow, you can use that one. Just maybe put a touch of white just to soften it. But if you want your bee to be really bright, then just use a bright yellow. That's totally fine too. But this one I'm using, like I said, it's called Daybreak, and it's sort of almost a pastel. And again, this is available on michaels.com. So I'm going to grab my number 10 flat brush, which is the smaller of our flat brushes. And we're going to paint in the rest of the bee's body. So any stripes that we haven't painted yet, those are going to be yellow. So just you're going to carefully fill those in right now. And this should be the same whether you have the template or whether you hand drew it. Your stripes should be the same at this point. So we're just filling in the rest of our bee. We're just filling it in. Again, this is Daybreak, and our folk art acrylic Daybreak, that's the name of the paint. And we've got our number 10 flat brush, which is just a small flat brush.
And somebody asked about like, oh geez, I can't point. I want to point. So the little arms by the head, the longer pieces that come out, you're going to show how to paint those on, right?
Yes, yeah. You can see on here, everything's a little bit longer. We haven't painted those yet.
Okay.
Don't stress. All the little details, we haven't pained those yet.
Okay. People were
that's a really good question. You did not miss a step, and your bee will not have stumpy legs. We'll go back and we will paint in those details. It's just sort of my preference, and it's just sort of the way that I paint, is I like to get all my color on the canvas before I start painting details. It's just sort of the way I've always painted, and so that's sort of the reason we're doing that. We're going to get all of our canvas covered in color, so there's no white canvas showing, and then we'll go back and we'll start getting into those details. We're just carefully painting our yellow in.
Yeah, and someone's asking if they have a different yellow. That's totally fine. Again, Jessie picked this really pretty palette, of folk art paint, and we're using Daybreak, but if you have a different yellow, you have an orange, totally fine right now.
Absolutely. Anything you've got. And if you want to be, like I said, if you've got like a bright primary yellow and you want it to be sort of paler like this one, just put a little bit of white in it, and that'll just sort of tone it down and make it a little softer. Or if you've got bright yellow and you want a brighter bee, by all means use that. And like Kira said, I love that idea. If you've got orange, why not use that? It doesn't need to look just.
Yeah, what size brush are you using?
We are using our number 10 flat brush, which is the smaller of our flat brushes. It's just a tiny little flat brush.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome. And again, all we did there was we just filled in the yellow.
Yeah, it is a really pretty yellow. Yellows can be tricky, and this one is like a really creamy, pretty yellow.
Yeah, it's very soft. I really like it.
It's called Daybreak.
Yep, Daybreak. I'll give everybody a second to sort of catch up with that.
Yeah. Still a lot of funny puns. I'm begin painting tomorrow.
I love that. Be unique.
Unique, yeah.
Oh, these are great, guys.
Yeah. I'm glad everyone's enjoying. Thanks for tuning in and painting along with us, or just getting inspired, because you can watch these classes on michaels.com after.
Very cool. Be kind. I love that one. Awesome. Okay. So while you guys are finishing that up, we are going to go and we're going to finish covering our palette in paint by grabbing our light blue, and we are going to paint in the wings. Just the same thing we've been doing. We're just going to put a little bit of light blue on our canvas. I'm sorry, not on our canvas, on our palette. And we're going to use the same flat brush we've been using, our number 10 flat brush, and we're just going to fill in those wings. And once you've done that, that's when we can get into the details. All we're doing is we're just filling it in. It's the last piece of our coloring book here. And again, I'm just following the edge of the shape with the edge of my brush. Just going right up to the edge. And again, if you get it in the purple a little, do not stress. I'm sure it's fine, but if you feel like it needs to be touched up, then you can just always go back, wait for it to dry first, and then you can go back and grab a little bit of your purple or mix a little bit more and just touch that up. Easy peasy.
And you're using light blue for the wings?
Yep, we are using light blue. We didn't do any mixing this time. We're just using straight light blue from michaels.com.
And I think someone said the wings look a little bit different on the painting, but I think it's the paint's wet, and that's a printout that you have of the painting. So
yeah, you can see the purple's a little different too. This is just because it's from my printer. These are a little paler. So if you kind of saw this and you just really liked it pale like that, you can add a little bit of white to your blue. That's totally fine. And that'll make them just a little bit lighter in color. But yeah, they're in real life, they're a little bit darker. And again, we're still using light blue. And like I said, feel free to put a little white in it if you like it to be a little bit lighter. And we've got our number 10 flat brush. And again, just a really light coat. Whenever I'm filling in color like this, you don't want a ton of paint. You want it nice and smooth, just enough to cover the canvas. Just enough to get full coverage. You don't want a ton of paint on there because I always do these paintings pretty quickly, and I want them to dry in between steps so that I can continue painting straight through. And usually I don't stop to dry anything. I just sort of order it so that we can continue painting and paint on each area once it's dried in a particular order. So again, if you were to go paint the details on this and it was a little bit wet, just grab a hair dryer. I do that all the time when I'm just doing paintings in the studio.
Yep. And someone is,
go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Okay. It's hard when we're not live together. We're used to doing this. So someone had a question about the brush strokes on the background. So should they go ahead and do another coat of the
Yeah, if you ended up with some brush strokes on yours, mine's like a little wet there. That's why you can see it's like a little funny looking. It's like hasn't dried for some reason. But yeah, if you feel like you have a little bit of brush strokes on yours and it's bugging you, go ahead and do another coat. Or you can wait till the end and do another coat. It's totally up to you. But yeah, absolutely you can do that. Cool. So now we've got all of our details in there. So, I'm sorry, not details. We're about to start our details. We've got all of our colors in there. So I'm going to grab, my brushes are all over the place. We're going to grab our smaller round brush, which is our number 6 round. And we're going to pick up some of this medium gray we have here. If you feel like you need to mix some more, go ahead. This is the one that we use to paint the legs and to paint this bottom stripe. I might mix a little bit more, so oops, wrong one. I'm going to pick up some black, and I'm going to pick up some white, and I'm going to mix those and try as best I can to match that medium gray color. It won't be perfect.
Oh, slow down just a little bit. We got some people trying to get caught up.
Okay.
Yeah, so just mix our gray. Does anybody have any other questions while everybody else is catching up? It's looking really good. It looks like a bee.
It's coming together.
I know. Again, we're using folk art paints.
Yep.
And if you aren't painting along, you can, if you're just watching this to relax and you want to be inspired, you can go ahead and get the video on michaels.com after. It'll be available, and along with Jesse's other Let's Paint classes. So you can check those out if you love this. And also be sure to check out our Let's Paint Facebook group. There's a ton of inspiration on there. And we've been able to share part of this program with Michaels. So we're so happy to be a part of this and excited that everybody's spending our evening with Michaels and us. So thank you, Michaels, for hosting.
Yeah. So I just saw somebody ask what kind of brushes we're using. I've got a couple different kinds here. So what we called out on the event listing is the Craft Smart variety set. So all of the brushes, all of the kinds of brushes and the shapes and sizes I'm using here are in that set. Like Kira said, we're used to working in the studio, and today we're working from home. So I just kind of had to use what I have, and I didn't have that exact set. So I've got a mixture of Craft Smart and some of our folk art brushes. But what I called out in the event listing, you should have all of those sizes in that pack of Craft Smart variety brushes.
Yep. Yes, we've got folk art paint, craft smart brushes, and artist loft canvases that we're using.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, all available on michaels.com, or if your store is open, or you could do curbside, or we have same delivery in our area, which is really great. So lots of ways to get your products if you don't have them, so you can paint with us.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you feel like people are catching up?
I think so, yeah. I think we can keep going.
Okay, cool. Okay, so well, I'll keep it slow.
Yeah.
So we've got this medium gray color that we've mixed, which again was about 1 part black and 1 part white. And so we just made this medium gray. And I have my number 6 round brush here, which is just a small round brush, whatever you've got at home that's close to this. And we are going to, like somebody asked before, about why their legs were shorter, why there wasn't the details at the ends of their legs, which is a great question. We're gonna go ahead and paint those in. Here, let me just see if I can move this over a little. There's our finished B printout. Okay, so we're gonna start. So before when, if you were painting your pencil lines, if you are one of the people who wasn't able to print out their template, which is totally fine, if you hand drew your B and I showed you how to paint over the pencil lines a few minutes ago, we talked about doing variant pressure on our brushes. So we did some that were really light pressure and some that was really heavy pressure, and we sort of played around with that to get sort of wiggly lines. So we're going to use that same technique again to paint the details on the ends of our B's legs. So a lot of times when I'm doing something new with brushwork, or when I'm showing students how to do something new with brushwork, I like to practice on my palette, or you can grab a little piece of paper or whatever a napkin, whatever you've got near you, just to sort of get an idea of how I'm going to be moving my brush and how I'm going to be holding my brush and how I'm going to be putting pressure on my brush before I start doing it on my actual painting. So here, we're going to pick up a little bit of this medium gray. And look, I have I hope you can see I have a very tiny bit of gray on the tip of my brush. It's probably taking up a quarter of the bristles. I just ever so gently just dipped it, the very tip of it, right into my paint. So I'm going to practice on my palette here. We're going to do medium pressure, light pressure, medium pressure, light pressure, medium pressure. Can you see that there? So that made sort of like, it looks almost like an inchworm or something. It's sort of like almost 3 dots next to each other. So I'll do it again. It was medium pressure, light pressure, medium pressure, light pressure, medium pressure. Can you kind of see that there? It's almost like you probably could even get the same look if you just did like 3 dots next to each other. It might even help if you picked up your brush in between. It's just so teeny tiny. Dot, dot, dot. I just sort of smushed my brush down 3 times in a row. So that might be easier for some people if you're sort of like newer to painting or you don't really play around with brushwork that much. Dot, dot, dot. Can you guys kind of see that? So that is what we're going to do on the ends of our bug legs. So we're going to go down to the bottom here. And at the bottom, we're just going to extend it downwards. So medium, light, medium, light, medium, light. Can you see that? And then at the very end, I'm going to use the very, very, very tip of my brush to do sort of a V shape going out. Because that's when I was looking at images of bees, they always sort of have that like little foot. I don't know if it's like a claw or what, but that's what bees look like. I don't know what it's called. If there's any entomologists out there, let us know. But that's what I was seeing in all of my bee photos. So do the same thing on this little leg here. Medium, light, medium, light, medium, light, and then do the same little, like a curved V going right out from the B there. And I'm going to turn my canvas, make it more comfortable for me, and I'm just going to do the same thing on these sides. And again, the reason I'm turning my canvas is because I'm right-handed, so it's much easier for me to either pull down or pull from left to right. It's harder for me to pull from right to left or to pull up. That's not as comfortable for me, so that's why I turn my canvas. Do the same thing here, and again, I'm just using the very, very tip of my brush. I'm just using, I have a tiny, tiny bit of paint on there. Medium, light, medium, light, medium, light. And then I'll do my teeny little V at the bottom. And the same thing for the bottom. If you have too much paint, you might end up making a mess. You might end up putting way too much paint. It'll get sort of globby and blobby. You won't be able to control your line as much. So here we go. Medium, light, medium, light, medium, light. And then our little foot at the bottom. And then I'm going to flip my canvas upside down and do the same thing for the top feet. So I'm going to be going up this time. So just tiny dots. You can do dot, 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 and then a little foot, or you can do it the way that I've been doing it. Medium, light, medium, light, medium, light. And then our little feet. So you can see it was super simple. Just pressing on your brush a little bit on this tiny number 6 round brush, just using the very tip of it. So while I have my canvas turned this way, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paint these antennae that you see here, the ones coming off of the head there, and those are just really simple lines. So the way I'm going to do that, I want to make sure that I have the sharpest tip on my brush that I possibly can have. So a really simple way to do that is to put it onto your palette and then twist it. Do you see how I'm twisting my brush? And that will make my tip really sharp again. So I have a nice sharp tip on my brush. So that's how I'm going to get a really fine line. So I'm going to make 2 little lines just coming out, just how you would imagine an antenna to be. Just 2, I'm hardly going to put any pressure on my brush. It's going to be a very fine line. Here, watch. I'm just ever so gently touching the canvas. I'm going to do a line coming out that way. Oops, I need more paint. It dried out while I was talking. A line going that way, and a line going that way. Teeny tiny, just how you would imagine an antenna to be. And then to extend it, I'm going to do another sort of curved line, but I'm going to start over. I'm not going to continue it. I'm going to go going that way, and then going that way, just to make it look a little more interesting. That's how we're going to make our antenna. So can you see what I did there? I just did 2 curved lines, sort of like a, when you were little, if you ever painted like seagulls, did you ever paint birds that way, Kira? How you sort of painted them like this?
Yes.
In that shape? It's sort of like that similar shape. That's how we're going to paint the antennas.
I'm pretty sure I still paint them like that.
Well, that's okay too. If that's how you like to paint birds, then that's great.
Yeah.
You're sort of implying that a bird is there. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and rinse our brush off. So just take a minute and just paint those tiny details on your little bug's feet, your little bug legs. I'm still loving all of these bee references. Be kind to yourself. I love that one from Nadia.
Yeah.
It's very important. Someone said, okay, these bee puns are getting out of hand.
Oh no!
We're not sick of them yet. Keep them coming. That's funny. Okay, so hopefully you guys are kind of catching up with the little bug feet. We are going to move on. We're going to keep using this gray color, and we are going to make some shadows and highlights on our bee's body. So I'm going to hang on to the same brush. So we're still going to be using the number 6 round brush, which is our tiny round brush. And we're still using the same gray color. So if you're starting to run out, or if maybe it's drying on your palette, don't forget, it was about 1 part Wicker White and 1 part Licorice or black, whatever color you're using. And that's how we got that medium gray. And I'm going to take it, you know what, I'm sorry, I said we're going to use the number 8 or the number 6. We're actually going to switch it to our bigger one. We're going to use our number 10 round brush, which is just the bigger of your round brushes. If you're using that Craft Smart set that was in the event listing, it's just the biggest round brush in that set. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse it, because again, this is a brand new brush that I just bought today at Michael's. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse that sizing off so it's nice and soft. And I'm going to make sure it's as dry as I can get it. And we're going to continue doing sort of the varying amounts of pressure. So if you joined us last week for the cactus painting, we did a lot of like shadowing and highlighting using our round brush and using the different variations of pressure. So it's going to be kind of similar today with the bee. So you'll be kind of have a leg up. So I'm going to put some paint on my brush. And again, this is the medium gray color that we mixed. And I'm using my biggest round brush, which is for me is a number 10. So the biggest round brush you have. And I'm going to make a highlight right here, right below this top of the bug. So here, I'll show you how I'm going to do it. I'm going to start with light pressure, and then I'm going to put heavy pressure, and then I'm going to go up to light again. And I'm just going to follow the bottom of that. Remember when we drew that big circle? I'm going to follow the right beneath that. So look, light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure. And that's sort of highlighting this shape right here. And that is how we're going to, pretty much how we're going to do all of our highlights here. And we actually are going to end up mixing one more lighter gray color. But for now, we just need that one. So next, you don't even need to really rinse your brush off because we're still using grays. I'm just going to wipe off the excess. I'm going to go back to my darker gray color. Do you remember that first gray we mixed that we used for the bug's body? So it's mostly black with a little bit of white. We're going to go back to that color. We're going to pick some up on our brush. If it mixes with the gray color on your brush already, that's okay. It'll just make a similar gray. And we are going to paint, I lost my train of thought. We are going to paint a shadow right here. So we're going to sort of start building them up. So here, I'll show you. So we're going to do light, heavy, light, and it's kind of like a practice. So now that we've done that, we're going to continue building up that shadow, and I'm going to add some white. You see, I just added a scoopful of white there. And we're going to make an even lighter gray color. We're sort of building up on our gray colors, and we're going to continue making them lighter. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Okay. So now with this lighter gray color, I'm going to go on the top here. I'm going to do the same thing to make sort of a highlight on that black area. So we'll do light pressure, and I'm going to put a little squiggle in it because you see how that line kind of goes? It's a little bit squiggly. I like that. So we're going to go light pressure, barely putting any pressure, and then heavier pressure, a little squiggle, and then pull it up. And that's where we're going to get that line there. And it's not perfect, and I did it on purpose because I like it that way. I like it to be kind of loose and swirly. So we are going to put a little more white in it. And again, we're just continuing to build up these gray colors, making them a little lighter each time we go. And I'm going to do a highlight on this gray stripe here. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do very light pressure. And then I'm going to go heavy and make a little squiggle, and then I'm going to pick it up again. So we've made a nice highlight on that gray stripe there. And now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to rinse my brush off. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back. And
what color are you using for the highlight, Jessie?
We started mixing. So we got to kind of a light gray here. So what I would say to do is grab some white and just put a little bit of black in it. Just a touch of black and mix it. And it's sort of a light gray color that we have here. That's the color we just used for those two highlights. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. And again, if it's not the exact gray I have, that's fine. As long as it's lighter than whatever gray you're putting it on top of, that's all that matters. It just needs to be lighter than what's beneath it, and that's what kind of makes it a highlight. So I'm gonna do a couple more shadows now. So I'm gonna go back to my darker gray color, which again, this is the first gray that we mixed, and this was mostly black with just a little bit of white. I'm gonna use that for my shadow for this stripe down here. I'm gonna do the same thing I did on the gray. I'm gonna do the same thing I did for the highlight. So very light pressure, and then heavier pressure with a little squiggle, and then pull up, light pressure again. All right, my brush kind of dried out at the end. So that's our little shadow there. And I'm also going to pick up some pure black. So do you remember in the beginning when I said we're not painting the bee black so that we can save black for the shadows? So that's why we did that. For right now, we need to go ahead and we need to shadow this middle part of our bee even darker. So we put a little bit of a shadow there, and we're going to use just pure black for that. So again, I just rinsed my brush off. I'm still using my number 10 round brush, and I'm going to pick up some black. And we are going to do the same thing right on the bottom of that round thing. We kind of made one already, and we're going to build it up to be even darker. So the same thing, light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure. And that makes a really nice dark shadow there. Hopefully you can see. Okay. And the next thing we're going to do, here, I'll give you guys a second to catch up before we move along. I'm just rinsing my brush off. So again, whatever color, we did a little bit of mixing there. We kind of mixed a few colors on top of each other. So as long as your highlight on your shape is lighter than the color under it, then you're good. And as long as your shadow on your shape is darker than the color under it, then you're good. So hopefully that makes sense. So that's all that matters. So we have our gray here, and then we have a lighter one and a darker one, and then a gray here and a lighter one and a darker one. So that's what matters, as long as it stands apart from that bottom color. So the next step, very simple. It's going to be easy to keep up. We're just going to make some little shadows on our bee's legs. So to do that, we're going to continue using our pure black, and I've got my number 6 round brush, which is the smaller of our round brushes. And then we're just going to pick up our pure black color, our licorice or pure black, whichever black you're using. And we're going to do the same thing on the bottom inside of each leg. So hopefully that makes sense. So we're going to do one here. I'll show you. We're going to do one on the bottom inside, on the bottom inside, bottom inside, and bottom inside. We're doing the same thing. We're going to use various pressures to make a little squiggly line right beneath that. So here, do a little line there, and we're going to follow the shape of our legs. Can you see how I just did that? Following the shape of the leg, light, heavy, light, to make those little tiny details. So I'm going to follow the curves of my little legs again. And I'm using my smaller round brush, which is the number 6 round. I'm just filling it in because my brush was a little dry. And again, we're just using the pure black color right now. And light, heavy, light. And we just did it on the bottom underside because, of course, we talked about this last week too with the cactus painting. You got to keep in mind what would be in shadow. So we don't really know exactly where the light is coming from this painting. We don't really pick a light source, but we're just kind of assuming it's coming from the top. So if the light's coming this way, all the shadows are going to be on the bottom. So that's kind of what we went for here. So of course, underneath the legs is where the shadows would be. So if the light's coming down on top, underneath those legs is going to be shadow. So that's why we put those shadows there, in case you were wondering about that. Okay. So while everybody's catching up with that, we are going to start painting the details on our wings. Hopefully everybody's keeping up and we're okay to move along to that.
People are asking, will there be more painting classes? So Michaels will actually be posting the upcoming classes on michaels.com under the community classroom. And I know we will definitely be here next Monday at 8 o'clock Central again. And Jessie, I think you're painting the starfish.
I am, yeah, we're painting a summery beach starfish. So it's gonna be a whole new technique. It's one we haven't done yet in the Michaels Community Classroom. So be on the lookout for that event listing.
Yeah, and then all the supplies will be listed again in the link on michaels.com, so you guys can paint along with us.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing you guys. We're glad you're excited. All right, so like I said, I'm still gonna keep using my number 6 round brush, which is the smaller of my round brushes. And we're going to mix a very light gray for this part. So I'm gonna pick up some white and just a teensy bit of black. Can you see how much black I have on my brush? Hardly any. And I'm gonna mix that. to a very pale gray. It's almost like a dark white color, really. It's barely gray. Mix a little bit more of it. I'm gonna keep the same color, but I could use a little more paint than that. Oops, I might have done too much black that time. So if you feel like you did too much black, just add more white, and vice versa.
And someone is asking if they'll be blending in the background. So I think after you get to the wings, we'll be blending.
Yeah, we got a couple more steps, and then we're gonna get to the background. We sure are. And again, whenever I mix with my brush, I always rinse it off before I start painting. So for the wings, we're going to be adding some fun textures, and we're gonna sort of paint in how bugs have that sort of pattern in their wings when they have clear wings like that. We're gonna be painting in that pattern, super simple. So I'm gonna put some paint on my brush of this very pale gray that we just mixed. It was just white with a little dab of black. We're gonna start at the bug's body, and I'm gonna do heavy pressure and then light pressure, and I'm just gonna follow the line of the top of the wing. I'm gonna go right on that line. So heavy pressure and then light pressure, and I'm just following that line. I think it's hard to see on camera, but in real life I can see it. So I ran out of paint a little. So heavy pressure and then light pressure. My brush keeps drying out, so I'm gonna dip it in some water. Right to about there on that wing.
And someone is asking, is there going to be a template for the starfish next week? And I don't believe there's a template for that one.
Nope, not for that one. We're going to be drawing that one by hand. But don't worry, I'm going to make it super simple.
So you'll just need canvas, paint, and a pencil.
Yep. Or maybe not even a pencil. But if you feel more comfortable with a pencil, then by all means, grab a pencil.
We'll paint with the paintbrush, or draw with the paintbrush. So no template next week.
Yeah, don't worry about it. You'll be prepared with just the supplies. Okay, so the color we're using, again, is just a very pale gray. So it's mostly white with just a touch of black. And I've got my number 6 round brush, and I just did heavy pressure to light pressure, and I just followed the top of that wing shape. That's all we've done so far. Now we're gonna do the same thing on the bottom. We're gonna do light pressure to heavy pressure following the bottom shape. So let's see, light pressure to heavy pressure. I need to put some more paint on my brush because I keep running out. Can you see that there? It's hard to see when it's wet, but we're just following that line. You can kind of see the line here. That's the line we're painting right now. Then continue it up the bottom of this part of the wing too. Just again, we're just following that line. We're gonna do the same thing on the left side.
And I think people are asking about next week already. I think Michael's is working on getting that listing up, but I know if you want to check back, but for sure we'll be here next week, same time, doing the starfish. So once that's up online, you can go ahead and sign up for it and get your supplies.
Yeah, it's gonna be a really fun one.
I think everyone's missing the beach if you don't live there this summer. So
I know it. I certainly am.
It'll be a fun one to do.
Yeah. So again, we're just doing the same thing on the left side that we just did on the right side. I'm sorry, I feel like it's kind of hard for you guys to see on the Zoom of my painting because it's wet, but you can just look at these lines. So that's what we're painting right now, those gray lines on the wings. So I'm gonna do a light pressure, heavy pressure, and then light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure. And we're just sort of accenting the shape of the wings there. Nothing really that fancy. It doesn't need to be perfect. There's no right or wrong. My brush keeps dragging, so I'm just adding a little bit of water to my paint. Again, not to water it down, just to make it wet again. So now we're gonna start painting the shapes inside of the wing. So to do that, so we kind of have like this top part of our wing, you can see, and then sort of like a bottom part here. They're kind of like, you know, in a bug, it might even be like 2 separate layers, I'm not really sure, but it's like a little bit separated. So you see that line that sort of separates them in the middle? That's what we're gonna paint. So we're gonna start here, like sort of where there's that divot in our shape, and we're gonna continue it to the bug's body. Can you see that?
Yeah, you can see it when you hold it up like that.
Okay, good. You can see it. I can sort of get the gleam of it. Okay.
Yep.
You see that line we just did? Do the same thing on this side. We're going to start where that divot is, and we're going to continue it to the bug's body. And that sort of makes that separation in the wings. So now we're going to continue to make some of these little textures within the wings. It almost looks like webbing or something. They're sort of connected, or almost like scales maybe. That's kind of what the shapes remind me of. So we're going to paint a line going up this way. And again, this doesn't need to be perfect. Whatever looks good to you is good. And then we're going to go in the middle and connect it here. And then we're going to connect it outwards. So again, like there's not really any super rhyme or reason. Can you see it there when I do it? We did a line going that way, and then we connected it, and then we did sort of a Y going outwards. And that's just to create more texture, to kind of put some detail on those wings. But however, whatever lines look good to you, if you feel like you are confident, you can paint the lines in for the wings yourself, like by all means do that. It doesn't have to be just like mine. And the bottom, we're just something similar. We're going to paint a little half circle there, and then we're going to connect it here, and then we're just going to connect those to the top. So hopefully, I'm trying to catch the light so you guys can see it.
Yeah,
So
you can really see it on the example really well.
Okay, good, good.
Yeah.
So you can see here, we did the little half circle, and then we did another half circle, and then we just made little lines to connect it to that top line. So we're trying to repeat it. We're just going to mirror it onto the other wing. So let's just go ahead and do that. And they don't need to be perfect, truly. If it looks good to you, I would say that when I'm painting. If it looks good to you, then it's good. There's no such thing as being perfect in painting.
Being perfect.
Sorry. Being perfect. Kira, they've gotten to you with the bee puns. Oh. Okay, so I'm just painted in those lines. Just super quick, super simple. Don't spend too much time on it because it's one of those things, those little details where you can sit there for a really long time and try to make it perfect. But just get a little bit of texture, a little bit of detail in there, and just let it be. Okay. Okay, so I got my same brush right here, my number 6 round brush, and I'm gonna pick up some white, and we are going to make little highlights on the edge of our wings. I got a little too much paint. So I'm twisting my brush again. Remember that trick I taught you? Twist your brush to get it really sharp. And we're gonna do just little highlights with the tip of our brush right on the corners of those wings. Just a little highlight where the wing would be catching the light in real life. Do the same thing to the other side. Okay. We just got a couple more steps for this painting, guys.
Yeah, we're going long tonight, so hopefully everybody's sticking with us. But I think it's good. It gave everybody a chance who's painting along to get caught up. So we appreciate everybody sticking it out. Everything's looking good. Everyone's still concentrating really hard.
Yeah. So I'm going to put some yellow on my palette. We're going to do the highlights and shadows on the yellow. And we already kind of know how to do it because we did it for the black. So we're going to move through this one a little bit quickly. I'm going to show you how to mix the colors. And then we're just going to do it just how we did those black stripes. So here, I'll show you. I put some yellow on my palette, and then I'm going to put a little bit of white. And then I'm going to put a little bit of purple. So whenever I mix colors, whenever I'm trying to make a color lighter or darker, for lighter, of course, I just put white in it. But when I'm trying to make a color darker, I never put black. Unless it's a gray, of course. But I don't put black because that will make the color really muddy. A little bit of black goes a long way, and it sort of just kills the color. So a little trick for when you're trying to make a color darker is to mix a little bit of the color on the opposite side of the color wheel. So, you know, like we've got our primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, and then we've got our secondary colors, that are green, purple, and orange. So on the color wheel, yellow and purple are opposites. They're across from each other. So when you put purple into the yellow, it's a complementary color and it's going to turn it into a little bit of a brown. So it's just going to make the color darker. So you can see this color here, that's how we got that sort of tan color, is by mixing purple into our yellow. So it's just a little bit of color theory there, just a quick one for you. So we're going to start first though by grabbing some yellow. And again, I've still got my small round brush, my number 6, and 1 part white. We're going to mix those, and that is going to be our light yellow color. You can mix as much white as you want to get it as light as you think it should be. You just want to make sure that it stands out against the yellow that we've already got on our canvas. So I'm going to mix that, and I'm going to rinse my brush off, and I'm going to show you the darker color. I'm going to grab some yellow. Oops. And I'm going to grab just a teeny bit of purple. You see, just a tiny bit, and mix that. And that should give us like a darker yellowy, almost like a mustardy color. Can you see that there? It starts turning it a little bit brown. Just darkens that yellow and put a little bit more purple. It's like magic. So now we have a really nice deep dark yellow. And again, if we had put black in there, it would just start turning gray. It would start getting really muddy and it would just kill that pretty yellow color. So by putting the opposite on the color wheel, we get that dark yellow. So again, we're gonna do the same thing that we did for the highlights and the shadows on our black stripes. So here we're gonna start with the highlights, which is our light color. We're gonna do light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure on the top of the yellow part. So light, heavy, light. I got water on my brush, I don't want it to be too wet. And we'll do the same thing down here. Light, heavy, light. You see those nice highlights? And then the same thing for the bottom. Light, heavy, light. And we have really pretty highlights on there now. Don't spend too much time on it. Don't think about it too much. Just a quick little line there to imply a highlight. And then the same thing for the bottom. We're going to grab this dark yellow color we've just mixed. On the bottom of each of those shapes, light, heavy, light. Oops, too much paint. Light, heavy, light. And the same for the bottom. We're going to follow that curve. Light, heavy, light. Put a little more paint on there. You guys see how we did that? Super simple. And when you kind of just add like really quick shadows and highlights, it gives the bee a lot of dimension and it makes it really easy without having to do all the blending and stuff like that. It's just a really sort of funky, quick way to add a lot of dimension to something really bold like this when you're painting. So hopefully that was really quick for you guys. So the last step, I know somebody had already asked about it, is we're going to add this texture to the background. So you can see here all of this texture that's on this canvas. We're going to go ahead and we're going to add that. So to do that, we are going to do something called dry brushing. So if you guys are familiar, or you guys are sort of like experienced painters, or even if you guys are used to like refinishing furniture and things like that, you probably know about dry brushing. And it's literally just that. You use a very dry brush to do the painting. You have hardly any paint on your brush. So let's start with the purple. So I've got my big brush here. This is my biggest flat brush that I have. This is my 3/4 inch flat. So in the Craft Smart pack, it's just going to be your biggest flat brush I have. I think it might be 1 inch, but that's perfect. And so we are going to pick up, we want to make sure it's really dry. So you can see I keep sort of wringing it through my fingers like that. I want to make sure there's hardly any water in it. That's really important. And so we're going to put some purple on our brush, and this is just straight lavender. It hasn't been mixed. You can see there's hardly any paint on my brush there. Can you see that? And then we're going to wipe it off a little too. We really want hardly any paint on there to start. And we kind of want to get a good idea of how it's going to go, especially if you haven't done this before you go putting a ton of paint on it. So you could even practice on your paint on your plate if you want to. What we're going to do is we are going to sort of smack our brush against the corner of the plate, which is what we're going to do on our canvas. So sort of like this. Watch. I'm holding my brush up top here. If you can see it in sort of like the front view that I have here, I'm holding my brush at the going up and down, and I'm going to smack my brush on the corner. You see that there? I'm sort of smacking the brush on the corner of the plate. Can you see how that sort of gave it that dry brush look? So put a little bit more paint. You can even go in one direction, but I'm going in two, and I'm just smacking it on there. So I'm just sort of like grazing it past my plate back and forth, but again, it's the same thing we're doing for the canvas. So here, I'll show you in the canvas. I'm going to start doing the dry brushing. I'm going to focus on all four corners. I'm going to leave the middles for now. I'm just going to focus on the corners. So here, watch this. I'm doing the same thing really lightly. I'm like smacking it on the corners of the, can you see that? You can go a little bit further into the painting. You see what it sort of did there? It's hard to see because it's wet. You see how we got that really fun texture?
Yeah, you can see when you hold it up like that.
Awesome. So that's what we're going to continue doing all around the corners of our canvas. And that just gives it a really fun texture. When I was doing the yellow part too, it kind of even reminded me of like pollen had gotten brushed onto the canvas. So I thought it was a fun background for this. So we're going to continue slapping our brush into the side of the canvas. And then I'm going to turn my canvas as I go and make it more comfortable for me. And just adding a teeny bit of paint at a time. Don't forget, we hardly have any paint on our brush. The less paint, the better. You can always add more, but you can't take it off when you're doing something like this. And we're going to keep putting that texture all around the corners, just smacking that brush right on the corners of the canvas.
That's such a great technique. It looks really good.
Thanks. It's a really fun one. It's a really easy way for when you kind of just a painting like this and you're like, oh, well, what am I going to do to the background? You know, it's just a really fun way to add some texture and make your painting look finished. And again, it really reminded me of like pollen brushed on something. We were here in Atlanta and we get a lot of pollen here, so we know what it looks like. So I thought that was kind of right. I thought that was kind of fun for the bee painting. Again, we're hardly putting any paint on our brush, and we're just sort of smacking it into the corners of the canvas to get this fun dry brushed effect.
Yeah, that dry brush is great even if you're creating a sign or, you know, really for anything. It's really pretty.
Yeah, like I said, if you guys are like familiar with like refinishing furniture or something like that, this is probably something that you know all about. This is really common for, like Kier said, like making signs or like doing furniture, stuff like that. This is a really common technique. Sort of just get the edges roughed up to make something look like it's a little bit aged or distressed. Okay, so that's it for my purple. So I'm going to rinse my brush off. And then I'm going to make sure it's really dry. Because again, we're dry brushing, so we don't want any water in there. So after you rinse your brush, make sure it's like super dry. Like I'm going to grab a paper towel and smush my brush in there because I want to make sure I can get as much water out of there as I can before we move on to our yellow. You just don't want it to be wet at all. Okay. So when you feel like you've gotten it really dry, you've gotten all the water out that you can get, we're going to do the same thing, but with yellow. So again, hardly any paint on our brush, and I'm going to focus on the middle parts here, kind of away from the purple. You don't really want to do it on the purple that's still wet, because again, we just learned that when you mix yellow and purple, it turns brown, so we don't want that to happen in our edges. So I'm going to try to focus on the areas where I sort of didn't put any purple, but we're going to do the same thing. Just smacking the edges of our canvas using Daybreak, which is our yellow color, with a very dry brush. And I'm not putting as much yellow as I put purple because it's pretty bold. I just want a little bit to bring out those yellows in the bee. You can see I'm hardly putting any time into this because I want it to be really random. That's sort of the whole point. You want it to be too careful. You want it to look almost accidental. That's why I'm sort of moving so quickly, because it's easy to get hooked up on things like this, and we don't want it to have too much thought put into it. And And that is the last step, you guys. So please make sure that you sign your painting, you sign your work of art that you finished. You can use your small round brush to do that. So I like to just sign my initials in my paintings, but make sure you do that too, because our bee painting is done. Be Happy is finished.
Yes, thank you guys so much for joining us. Jessie, it's awesome. I hope everybody had so much fun. Thanks for all the questions and comments. I am going to pick someone. This is the hard part. I gotta
pick a winner.
Stuff.
Thank you guys so much for joining. It's been so fun getting to see you guys all paint along. Here, let's see if we can hold our paintings up. Let's do that, Kira.
Yeah, everyone hold your paintings up. Thank you. I know we went long tonight, but I think, you know, it was great for everybody to get caught up.
That looks so good. Awesome, guys. Wow, we have so many people painting along. These look amazing, you guys. Oh, thank you so much for painting with me tonight. Very cool.
Yeah, thank you guys. Okay, so a winner is...
Normal.
I know, I gotta do it on my phone. I don't want to pronounce anyone's name wrong either. That always makes me nervous. I hope everybody is still watching.
Yeah, stick around, guys. See who wins. Kira's about to pick a winner for the $50 worth of plaid product.
Okay, so is Nadia still watching?
Nadia,
if you are still watching, I can get down to the end of my messages. So Nadia, if you're watching, you won $50 worth of plaid product, and what you need to do is go to our plaid Facebook page and go ahead and direct message us, and we will get a hold of you and get you your product. So again, go to the plaid Facebook page and direct message us and just let us know that you were watching the Be Happy painting, and we'll get a hold of you and make sure you get your product. So thank you all for watching. Thanks again, Michaels, for having us. We had such a great time hosting, and we will, we've got 2 more classes this week. We have paint pouring on Wednesday, and then we have Mod Podge on Friday. And then again, Jessie will be back next Monday to paint starfish. So we hope to see everybody next week. So thanks, guys. Good night.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.